How about the quick and easy version of using Gaia GPS on a web page? That's what's coming up. Stay tuned. Okay, let's get started with Gaia GPS. So I'm incognito in Chrome. I want you to see what happens when you come into Gaia GPS as a new user. So it comes in here, it has a banner across the top, learn more, and some blanks to put your credentials in or sign up or log in with an existing account. I'm going to click this learn more button just to show you the different subscription paths that you can use, one of them being completely free. This is what I have. I have Gaia GPS Premium. It is the reason why I have this is I wanted the different map additions and I wanted to be able to layer them. And then the next option is the same thing, Gaia GPS Premium, with a membership to Outside Plus, which gives you some perhaps some digital subscriptions, maybe some paper copies. I'm not sure. I don't have this, so I don't know what that looks like from a standpoint of actual membership there. And then there's option 3 is where I started out, and that's limited Gaia GPS for free. Very powerful, a very good place to start and to see how that fits. So you can get into this for free, and you can do 90% of what you want to do for no cost. So it's something to consider. The premium might give you some maps that would help you. Let's say if you were going to do some riding on the trails with an ATV, there would be some maps that wouldn't be maybe available in the free version. But I'm not totally convinced it's worth it, but it's just something that I've done and it's easy and I just continue to do it. And I haven't really looked at the differences too closely, at least lately. So when I signed up for this maybe 3 years ago and I haven't looked at it since. Okay, so that is a quick overview of the different options. Again, I'd recommend starting out with free and see if that does what you need it to do. So I'm going to go out of this. I'm going to get rid of this and come into, this is my Gaia account actually logged in, and this is a premium account. So I'm going to start out, this is where I spend most of my time is in this area and this area. I spend very little time over in this area. This is the toolbar. I call it the toolbar. I don't really ever search for anything. And notification is just what did it do last. It looks like it uploaded this file for me. That's just a toggle. And then here are just different options to look at some of the same information in a different way. I very rarely use any of this stuff. Some things that might be important are to create a team. Haven't done that, but I'm sure that'd be kind of neat. Get into your profile, your subscription or settings. Those are some things that you might want to look at. Otherwise, I know that they're working on this part of it, the actual folders part. That's much different than working over here with the folders. And I tend to just, at least for the time being, stay away from this because it just feels so much more complicated. If that's me, you might find this very useful. I want to mention that, like the photos area, as you're out on the trail, whatever you're doing, hiking, paddling, whatever, and you want to take a picture, this software, this service supports being able to take that picture and tie it to the GPS location to tell a story. I haven't done that. I think that's pretty neat, and I will do that at some point in time. So coming over here to the toolbar, where I do spend most of my time with Gaia, the map overlays, how are the map overlays functioning? What's toggled on and off? So do you want labels to display? You want routes and so on? So this is kind of one of those things that I set it up once and I just never went back to it. There's probably some neat things about this, and I probably should pay a little bit more close attention to it. The map layers, this is another one of those things where I really kind of set it and I don't spend a lot of time, though this is what the premium service gives you. It gives you access to a lot more map layers. Like I'm pretty sure Nat Geo Trails Illustrated is not available in the free edition. What is that? Well, this is the hidden layers here. These are layers that I have available to me that I've made arrangements in the settings to have here, but I just don't have them displayed here. Here's a visible layer that I have displayed here. So watch this area here and this area here, and I'll activate the Nat Geo Trails Illustrated. So all I'll do is click the radio button. You will see this pop up to the top here, and it displays a layer on the map. This has an incredible amount of detail for these areas. There's lots of rivers in this area. I'm fortunate enough to have this detail close by where I live here. So if you just look in contrast here to compare what you're seeing here for detail and what you're seeing here for detail. When it comes to paddling, like for example, the Pine River, it tells you the miles between certain points on the river. That's helpful. Gives you a lot of information about the different sites that you can go in and enter the river or get out. And the list just goes on and on. You know, a picnic area, fishing, camping, just lots and lots of data. Motorcycle tracks. It's almost too much information. It's quite overwhelming. You can adjust that by using these bars here. So if you don't want to display all the information, you can back that off. Still looks busy to me, but that's something that is an option to do. I usually just turn them all the way up so I can see as much as possible. I do want to say I don't use these layers or these different map layers a lot. But I do use like the satellite imaging. It's not as detailed as what Google has. So I find myself a lot of times taking the coordinates out of here and popping them over to Google Maps and then plopping them in there so I can see just that little bit more detail. What does it look like? Is there actually some place that I could move off the river and actually set up a camp when I'm paddling a canoe? Sometimes just that little bit different resolution in Google Maps gives me that information that I need to see. If anybody uses Gaia and they have a map layer that they use that gives me as much of that, I would really appreciate knowing about that, because, and please comment or leave a comment, because it would save me a lot of time going back and forth. So there's the map layers. I'm going to turn this one off and you'll see what will happen here is, oh, by the way, this is different states too. So there's a portion up here in Michigan, over here in Pennsylvania, along the Appalachian Trail, and so on. I'm going to turn that off and you'll see that disappear. And just to give you some other examples, I'll turn national maps on. You see that gives that information. Open cycle map. And that's the predominant layer. And you can change what dominates by dragging. So I'm going to leave Gaia Streets on, take these two off. So we have a little bit clearer picture to work with. And then I'm going to just take the map layer side menu off by clicking the X. Folders. Folders, really important. I would recommend you spend as much time as you need to understand this. Here's where, if you don't do folders and you just start planning trips using Gaia and you start putting waypoints in and you start putting routes in, they're just going to all appear here and it's going to get really confusing. And then like me, you're going to try to label those so that you understand what they are, but it's going to be very difficult to try to figure out what goes where and when you're doing a trip. And that's where folders come in. So What I've done is I've done it by year, and I'll just look at the 2021 year. Now I know this is redundant. I just did this lately. I will probably come back in here and rename these and take the 2021 out. So it's just whatever the trip is. But you can see there are some of these were things that there are YouTube videos on, like the Hersey River, the Manistee River, Houghton Powell Dam to Government Lake Landing. They're here. So if I want to turn those on, you'll see them pop up on the map. And so you can kind of see that what's the difference here and what you're seeing. This is a waypoint. These circles are waypoints. And I just marked the entry point. There's a suspension bridge. There's a potential place to camp here. This is a route, and we'll talk about that a little bit more on another couple of waypoints. I always like marking bridges when I'm paddling so I know, just for reference sake, what's coming up. If something happens, there's an out point. And so on and so forth until you get all the way down. The reason why you're seeing two tracks is there's the planned route, and I know they're close in color, and there was the actual route. The planned route is the one that's going to be a little, what looks like a little less resolution. Point, I'm clicking. And I'm just trying to keep it in the blue. And then that gives me an idea of distances. How far are we going? So if I click on that, planned paddle route, it tells me it's 13.5 miles, and there's an ascent of 1,300 feet. So then I asked myself, hey, can we paddle 13.5 miles in the time that we can do this without maybe stressing anybody out? So, and the answer was an easy yes to 13.5 miles because the river is flowing quite nice and took about 5 hours. This right here, you can use this to follow, and you can look at the descent as you're going. It might help you with knowing that, hey, there's probably going to be some rapids in here because you're dropping. So that area you might want to be careful, and you might want to put some waypoints there so that you see those when you're going. Just, hey, be careful. There's maybe some spots here that are going to be a little faster, or potential hazards with rocks, that sort of thing. The last part of our paddle, we're in more of the backwater of the Tippy Dam pond. You can see it was pretty flat. And then, not sure what these are about here. I don't know what those elevation changes are about there. That's a little strange to me. And then if you want to turn that off, a lot of times I just turn the entire thing on momentarily, which, let me just back out and you can see, oh, hey, 2021 was a busy year. Okay, and then you can turn it off and it cleans up everything real nice. And you can do the same thing. Hey, what'd you do in 2020? So if you have an object, so let me just make an object real quick. I'll just put a waypoint on the map here and save it. Untitled Waypoint, okay? And then we'll get rid of this, and then we'll come back into the folders, and there's an Untitled Waypoint, okay? And let's just say that's something you wanted to keep and you knew where you wanted to put it. You would just hit this radio button. You'd go to folders, which I'm not going to do, but you'd go to folders, and then you would, oh, let me do that. So I'm going to go into folders, and it's like, oh, hey, well, where do you want to put this? Well, more folders is usually what I do. I want to go to 2021, and I want to put it in, let's say, the Jordan River, so that I would just move it. And then that object, that Untitled Waypoint object, would move into the Jordan River folder that's within the 2021 folder. Well, I don't want this, well, it's still checked, and you can throw it away. So that's how that sort of works. And you can nest folders within folders. So, so we talked about these three icons here. We're going to go to map preferences. And this is just really whether you want to work in imperial or metric, and then how you want your coordinate format to look. And then you come down here, and this is where I spend most of my time with a map or with the waypoints or the routes. Very little time with the rest of this. I've never used the area. And here we just import data. So let's say we have some route or waypoints. Well, I think it does waypoints, but definitely routes. If you have some routes in all trails and you wanted to bring them over, you would export them out of all trails and then bring them in using this feature here. And then if you wanted to print a map because you have a planned trip, you could use the print function, and that works out real nice. Okay, coming back to waypoints, let's say we want a spot on the map that we want to mark a waypoint. So to do that, and that's not where I want it. Well, you just move it where you want. Oh, I want it over here at this lake. And then here you would click on this and you would maybe put whatever icon might represent that or whatever color you would want. And then there's the emojis that you might want to use as well. Okay. And then here you would label whatever it is that you wanted. Right now it's by default Untitled Waypoint. And then you'd save it. If you wanted to edit it, you could just go here, edit it, change the title if you wanted to, put a different icon there, and save it. Okay. And if you want to get rid of it, you would come back into folders, Untitled Waypoint, check it, hit the trash can, and it's deleted. Okay. Routes work within the established map system. I'm going to try to find some 2 tracks and show you what I mean. So let's do a route, and let's say, hey, we want to do some ATV riding, and we want to enter the trail right here, and we want to go. Now watch, it just follows that trail because it's established map coordinates, so it can follow that. Now if you wanted to go a little farther here, you can do that. So we put another point here. Let's say you wanted to go over here, but you wanted to go on this, you wanted to come down here and go on this 2 track right here. Well, if I clicked here, let's say, it's going to take the road that is the most modern road. It's not going to send you down a 2 track. So in order to get past that, you would just put more data points in there. So I want to take this 2 track, so you might click here. And, I want to go around this circle here. So you might do something like this. Now, see where it doubles back here? You'd want to do this then. Click here. And then you could click here and it'll probably route you fine. So just be aware of that. And then if there's a trail here, if there's let's say a trail here that you know of and it's just not on the map, then a lot of times I just get the satellite image out and I start following that trail using the satellite imagery. Or if I have another route that I've loaded in, I would follow that route in that, but it won't auto adjust. You're going to have to use a lot more points depending on how accurate you want to be. A great example is a river. If you wanted to canoe this part of the river right here, these rivers are just not, they're on the map, but they're not anything that Gaia understands as a route. So let's say I wanted to take and do a route down the river. Well, I want to canoe from here. Do you see what's happening here? So now I really got to zoom in on this, and I didn't even get the data point right there, but okay, that's fine. Then I have to use a lot more data points. So then I try to zoom in and zoom out until I start seeing the points where it turns. And you can kind of see those right here. Okay. And then and so on and so forth until you build that route where you want to go. And so if I save that, or even before I saved it, that was a 1/4 mile route. And then if you want to do multiple days, a lot of times what I do is, let's just say that's longer than that, or let me get you a different example here. It's going to be easier to show you an existing route that I did earlier this year. So the Muskegon River is a good example. I go over here. You can see, if I zoom out far enough, I don't have to deal with the waypoints. Day 1, day 2, and day 3. Now there's going to be an interesting waypoint in here that's informational. I like to do this sometimes. Informational, so I can go to here and waypoint labels. Waypoint labels is turned off. So my route information, very nice and handy. Day 1 is red, day 2 is yellow, day 3 is purple. Now sometimes I even put the distances in there. Now I can tell the distances by just clicking that route, and then it says MR, and let's just say now this is actual day, but you don't have that when you're planning, so just pretend that's not there. MR Muskegon River day 1 planned route 22.3 miles. The printing, if you wanted to print something, you would select whatever it is. Let's say it's Muskegon River. Now, because it's going east to west, you'd want to use landscape, and maximize that out. Whether you want the compass or not, that just turns that part on or off. Then you'd export it as a PDF and print it or save it or whatever you want to do with it. And you got yourself a planning map. So something that I just want to talk about relative to this is what you would work on a web page on your computer. And I'm very comfortable using this to plan and to make, the decisions on maybe where you might camp and that sort of thing. But this is the web page. This is the web service. This is the web app. The device that I use out on the trail, whether it's my phone or whether it's maybe an iPad, or it could be an Android device of some sort, that's running a mobile app from Gaia that's free. And that's what I actually use to record the track. And then if I see certain things happen on the trail I like, I'll do a waypoint. And that's also where you could do the photograph, and that's how it keeps track of where it is on the trail. So that'll be a different video, the actual mobile app, because there's enough there. There's just so much information there. I didn't want to make this video, an hour long type of thing. So, all right, now what we went over is the web page for Gaia that you would use on a computer, and what I use to do a lot of trip planning. I like sitting at a computer to do this. I have lots of screen real estate, and it helps me to plan maybe, where we're going to camp, where we're going to go in someplace, come out of someplace. I have Google available, so if I need to find motels or campgrounds, I can do that pretty easily. I can make the calls and so on. So that's the planning part. And then also in post-production, it is where I would bring the data that I collected on the trail together and organize it here. This is not what you'd use out on the trail. You wouldn't go into this website on your phone or tablet and try to do something with this. You would use the mobile app that it's available for iOS and Android. That's a whole nother video, which I will do likely 2 weeks. So we have both of them together. Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel and checking this video out. This was meant to be the short and concise version of how I use Gaia GPS on a web page. I will do something a little bit more in detail later on. And hopefully in the meantime, you can find this of some use. So until next week, take care and thank you.